This is Brent.
And this is Amanda,
We are the Unreliable Narrators.
here to talk about the strangeness, the mystery, and the wonder of Young Wolfe's prose.
What is time?
What is memory?
What is a person?
Is this reality?
Where are we?
Do we exist?
Have you ever considered that all your choices are what brought you right here to this very moment?
Episode number 41, Mountains Like Mice. First published in Worlds of If, May 1966. Also collected in Young Wolfe, 1992, published by a friend of the podcast, Dan Knight of United Mythologies Press. And then finally collected in The Wolf at the Door, 2023.
Yeah, so this one was what Wolfe considered his first professional science fiction sale.
Right. So it's his second sale overall, preceded by The Dead Man, which was published in softcore porn magazine, Sir.
Cream cheese, I think, is the term that collectors prefer when you're talking about
Good
that.
to know. Good to know. And so that was his first professional sale, but here we have a genuine SF story.
Yeah. So I've read this several times before.
Yes.
But then rereading it for this episode, there are aspects of it where it's you can see glimpses of Wolfe in it, but then there's parts of it that also feel like a little odd.
More odd in the sense like he is writing to market or hasn't found his style yet, or...
I think a little of both, because Frederick Pohl was the editor of If at the time. And I know from, I'm trying to remember where I read this. It's in one of the fanzines I have. But Wolfe was talking about an interview with Pohl, and he was saying that most of his views on SF and how writing should be done were almost exactly the opposite of what the editor had. And so it is... I do wonder, because it doesn't feel like Wolfe in certain parts, but then maybe it is too a little bit. It's just early Wolfe, and he hadn't quite found his style.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's interesting, because reading this, I needed to read for the podcast. And sometimes life is a little overwhelming and there are lots of things going on. And it's like, okay, one more thing to do. And it felt like, as I was, I got out my copy of Young Wolfe and I was like, okay, I'm going to read over this. And it felt a little bit like a chore. And then about 2 pages in, I just was, it's such a great story. Phenomenal. Well, I don't know, phenomenal might be hyperbolic, but it really is a moving and interesting and engaging story. And I felt that, oh yes, the reason I do this is because I love Wolfe's style so much. So whatever the balance of, is this quite Wolfe or not, there's enough there that it kind of, on a hard day, it swept me away. So,
okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So I guess a synopsis.
Yes.
There's a young man going through an initiation, right?
Yes.
So Dirk is his name.
Yeah.
Part of the initiation is that he has to coat himself with this dye. That's purple. When it dries on him, it looks black, but then it's purple. He has to go out and into the wilderness and live out there until the dye is completely gone. And then if he can do that and show his survival skills and applying his knowledge,
right, then he'll be admitted into the guild or the academy.
Yeah, the academy, and then he can become a master.
Yes.
But if he fails, the indication seems to be that he will only be he'll be in the class it's the captive class.
Right. So he'll be essentially a servant, perhaps a slave, but they're called captives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's his journey out there with that.
Yes. So. Yeah. So, I mean, classic sort of structure we have here, a young man undergoing an initiation. And because it's a short story and not an epic novel, we don't have his life after he becomes a master or any of that. We just have essentially what we have is the initiation, and then and not even quite completed. So
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
yeah,
So I was reading this out of Wolf at the Door,
yeah,
and you had joked, like, am I going to go through here and do the comparisons like I
right.
did?
So you've done this before,
Yeah, because I did that with the Dead Man.
right?
I did not do it with Mountains Like Mice.
Okay,
But I did notice that there were several places in Wolf at the Door where there are typos.
okay.
Yeah, like at one point, Dirk is called Dick.
That also occurs in Young Wolfe in one instance.
Does it?
Yes. So it is
no.
unfortunate for my 12-year-old sense of humor that at least one of those typos occur where Dirk is standing upright. So, yes.
That's okay. Now I need to go back and pull the. I guess for the listeners, I have just moved, and so all my books are boxed up.
Yes.
And like I have my Wolf stuff set aside because I know I need to read it for the podcast, but all my like magazines and journals and
right. So your copy of the 1966 Worlds of If is not handy.
It's not handy. So
Yeah.
now I'm like, I need to check that out.
Well, maybe before we release this episode, we can post an update on Instagram or Reddit about the typo situation. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start out here with the. So it's Mountains Like Mice.
Yes.
There's one thing. It's got the little chapter. It's kind of like the classic.
Yes. Little chapter divisions.
Yeah, like in the old pulp magazines. So maybe that's one thing that made it feel older and not Wolf to me. I don't know. Hold still, my lord, the sly-looking man said softly to the young scholar as he was dyeing purple. This won't take but a moment. Not too hot, is it, my lord? No, Dirk said. It's not too hot. Stripped to his breechcloth in the center of the courtyard, he was watching with awe as the warmth of the sun dried the liquid Otho, the captive, dipped up with his rag and stick, black when it came dripping out of Otho's pot, and turned the smoothly tanned skin of Dirk's barrel chest and long legs the color of wild grape.
It's a great opening.
It is. It does catch you right off the hand. We've got several things where this is the captive Otho.
Yep.
He's introduced. We're getting this from Dirk's perspective, and I'm bringing this up because I think Otho is not. He may not be exactly who he's presenting himself.
Right.
So
sly looking is Dirk's perception, but I think it's revealed later on that there is something more going on here.
yeah. So I wanted to pull that out there.
Yeah.
We are in classic Wolf territory where we're stuck in somebody's perspective.
Yes.
But their perspective may not actually match what the reality is.
Right. Yeah. So what an interesting concept. Like this person their skin is being dyed purple. And, it's not entirely clear right off why, but it is a striking, the ritual seems to be deeply significant. We seem to be entering some established culture, some established tradition, and there's a method to this, and it's revealed that this is an initiation fairly quickly. I mean, it is a short story, but it does have a rich feeling of history to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does, and then when we get to that point, it is interesting how this ritual kind of came about. So.
Yeah, so he continues to dye him purple, and what's going on in Dirk's head is this phrase that his master, and the master's name is Theophilus, has said before: the mountains are mice, not like mice. The mountains are mice. So the title is Mountains Like Mice. But the phrase from the master is the mountains are mice.
Yeah, that struck me because at least in Wolf at the Door,
yes,
it's title and then just halfway down the page, it's
right.
Like not quite the title,
right? And he's meditating over this as a comforting thought, but it's very unclear why the mountains being mice is a comforting thought. And, he says that Master Theophilus probably didn't mean it to be comforting. He had been thinking of stealth and disease and perhaps of other things as well. And so these associations they're not explicit in the text.
No.
And so there is some explication that comes later, but even then there's a sense of there is a coherent thought form or a coherent tradition. I already said earlier about the dying, but I'm thinking about this in terms of the intellectual tradition of this academy to pass on a phrase like this and to have it have these associations that, at least for me, are not necessarily natural associations. Mm-hmm. So you feel like you're on the edge of this strange scholarship, a strange esoteric knowledge.
I was thinking about this as I was reading it. We're so caught into our own flow of life that there's all sorts of things that you think about. High school, it's like, how did a Sadie Hawkins dance come about?
Right.
Or I don't know if they still do this, but when I was in high school, there used to be the powder puff football where the girls would, for a game, they would put on the football outfits and play either the boys or another set of girls.
This is where I remind listeners that I didn't go to high school, so this sounds as strange and alien to me as Mountains Like Mice. What?
Well,
and they call it powder puff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no clue, but I don't know where these things came about. In college, there was people would go and they'd put locks on one of the bridges by campus.
Okay, I've seen this, putting padlocks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of went away for a while, and then it's come back. I've noted, but people kind of put them just all over the place now.
Yeah.
But it's like,
why?
Exactly,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
But when you're in the stream of it, it makes perfect sense because it's like, oh, well, this is what we do. But you never, if you traced back the origins of those things, it's like, well, how did this even come about?
Well, I would think it's something like a Sadie Hawkins dance. That's where the girls ask the guys, right?
Yeah.
Probably comes about similar to any kind of carnival inversion type tradition where we're upending expectations. Sorry, this is now a sidebar. It has nothing to do with Mountains Like Mice, but
or does it?
Maybe it does. And powder puff football. We're inverting the quote unquote natural order. And so if we have a culture where men ask women to dance, then a tradition where the women ask the men, as a temporary inversion kind of thing. And it's the men that smash their heads into each other and give each other traumatic brain injuries. But for, we women want to have our TBIs as well. So, yeah. So the way a tradition can become a part of a culture without anyone being really consciously aware of how or why this particular thing came about. And then when the explanation comes about, like Sadie Hawkins is an inversion because what's right and normal is for men to ask women to dance. And those assumptions may not even be alive in culture anymore. I would expect in modern day high schools, there is maybe, while there's still some tradition or custom of boys being the ones that initiate, there's not a bedrock cultural belief that boys have to initiate and girls have to wait. So
yeah. So we get a section here where Otho,
yes.
soles of your feet, please.
Yes.
And so he's painting the soles of his feet, and he's kind of giving conversational, like, oh yeah, I went through this. You would think that the feet would be where the dye comes off first, because you're
walking on them,
and it's like because of the calluses. And he explains that that's actually what got him caught, because when they looked at his feet and like the crevices on his toes, that's where they found the dye. Right.
And characters are described as walking around barefoot quite a bit. So thick calluses would then be the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we come to, I think this will be probably many people's favorite little interlude for this story, which has some great interludes. But a raven has been perched on the wall. From the wall, a raven which had been perched with its back arrogantly toward them as it stared out over the desert, suddenly launched itself, thrashing into the air. Outlined for a moment like a heraldic figure, black against the blaze of the afternoon sky, it brought to the young man a sudden personal realization of the frighteningly complex linkage between cause and effect, stimulus and response, which guides every living creature. What a fantastic paragraph. Mm-hmm. What great imagery. And then, of course, we find out that Otho has been taming this raven. He captured it as a fledgling and has had it in his room and been feeding it.
Yeah. I wonder, too, if this is part of, because one of the, sorry, you said Otho. I was saying Othel, like the,
Yeah. I don't know.
I had a great uncle whose name was Othel.
Oh, okay. Otho?
Well, it was done this way, and I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. I mean, one thing that I've consistently found out through podcasting is like, wow, I've been saying that word wrong my entire life, but can't break the habit now.
Well, and I have this problem too, and you and I have talked about it before. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. I assume we have. So I grew up pretty much as an autodidact. I did not attend schools, and had very little contact with, even radio, much less television.
Yeah.
And so the vast majority of words I learned, pronouncing them through phonics, which phonics works. But often emphasis is wrong and I mispronounce all the time. And I used to be terribly embarrassed by it. But now I'm just like, well, yeah, I had to scrabble for this learning on my own. Of course it's imperfect. You guys can get over it. So.
Yep. So one of the things, masters, so Dirk brings this up, is that masters, they seem to exert or have a connection with creatures.
Yes.
So they can call in hawks, they can make it so animals don't attack.
Right. They have some kind of control over animals. And he seems to have, even as a pre-initiate, this is skipping ahead a little bit, he is able to mimic a distress call of an animal. So part of his training already has been the voices of animals, training or his past. Mm-hmm. And so the ability to mimic the sound of an animal is something that has been inculcated. And there's a sense that there's going to be some wider initiation into powers that he does not yet have. And that Otho is not allowed to have or didn't receive because Otho failed his initiation.
Yeah. Part of what I wonder here, though, is because it says he's my pet. He's a pet, my lord, Othel explained hurriedly. So Master Alexander comes in, and so Dirk is like, oh, that's why the raven flew.
Right. The raven was alerting to the presence of Master Alexander.
Yeah. I do wonder if the raven and Otho are... I put this in the category of there might be more to him here that
Otho is being judged by Dirk as trying to mimic the master's mastery over animals, but Dirk may be unaware of the fact that Otho has some mastery over animals because Otho is more than he seems.
Yeah.
To exist as a, quote, captive is not necessarily what it appears on the surface.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting interpretation. You mentioned that Master Alexander shows up. So this is the raven alerts and is squawking, and then a door opens and Dirk sees out through the courtyard to the arrival of a man on horseback. Mm-hmm. And that's Master Alexander, who looks in, and Otho is then engaging with him. The thing I thought was interesting about that scene is that Dirk says that no one is supposed to witness the ritual humiliation of the initiates. Mm-hmm. And so this dyeing of their skin a dark purple is supposed to be, there is some humiliation involved in it, ritual humiliation, if nothing else. And then that's what it is that drives them out. Either this custom of humiliation or the sense of humiliation is what drives them out to be unseen. They're not no one is to see them while they're dyed purple. Mm-hmm. So,
Master Alexander, like we don't get a lot of him here at the beginning,
No.
but he kind of cracks me up because he's got like a long. He comes in, he's got a long beard, he's on a horse.
yeah.
And he's got an automatic rifle
On the back. Oh no, this is so cinematic.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yes. It would be a very like I can see it on the big screen. People talk about like, oh, how would we do Book of the New Sun? It's like you can't deal with it. But
you could do this.
You could do this.
You could film this for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I'm thinking, an Arabian style horse with this interesting combination of futuristic and medieval Middle Eastern style trappings, which I think contextually would fit perfectly.
Yeah.
We've got, with Theophilus and Alexander, we've got the Byzantine and the Greek and the Russian influences. And so, yeah, I mean, we could go anywhere from Mongols rode the steppes to desert horsemen on Arabians to, Greek accoutrements and then, space rifle. So
we don't get to see this, but I kind of wanted to see Master Alexander just kind of do some righteous butt kicking.
Yes.
Because it feels like that's what he's just like this gruff old guy.
Yes. Tough and super knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So we're going to throw a little flavor of Gandalf into that interpretation as well, I think.
Yeah. No,
because he has that learned appeal. But that comes later in the story. Yeah. So now it is Dirk's responsibility to go and sit in silence alone in a small room waiting for the dye to set and for the sun to go down. Mm-hmm. So this means that he's going to be led away from the academy and essentially abandoned in the desert to survive the best he can until the dye wears off. And he has a small bag, which has some interesting, practical content. So he has a shoulder-strapped specimen bag in which there is a plainly made knife with a blade not much larger than the width of his hand, so like a 4 or 5 inch blade, but of excellent steel, a leather water flask, bandages, and a bottle of disinfectant, a small magnifying glass, a clasped handbook of meditations with tables of useful information, formulas, and recipes at the end. The whole collection, bag included, weighed less than 2 kilograms. So we've got this 4-pound kit bag that has a knife, bandages, disinfectant, a magnifying glass, a small book, and a water flask.
That's what you get.
And that's what you get to survive in the desert.
Yeah, so he's meditating in the dark, thinking, and he's waiting. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask. I think I know the answer here. What did you think the magnifying glass was for?
Oh, starting fires?
Okay, that's what I assumed too. But,
okay.
But then I was like, well, am I missing something? But yeah.
I assumed it was for starting fires, but I have no justification for that other than I know that is a good way to start a fire.
Yeah.
Lord of the Flies taught us that, I guess. I don't know. Practical experience taught me that.
Well, yeah.
So, I'd read about it and then did it.
Oh, yeah. We had fires start all the time growing up because people would throw bottles out, and it's like they don't think about.
No, they don't think about the lensing effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's like not every bottle that gets thrown out in the field starts a fire, but it happens.
Well, a magnifying glass is particularly precise for it, but a lot of different glass shapes can have that same focusing effect. And if you've got bright sunlight, there you go.
Yeah. So a lot of times I am a creature of odd habits sometimes, listeners, but when I see a bottle or the bottom of a bottle that's broke off out somewhere, I will usually grab it. It's twofold because one, somebody's dog might step on it and get cut,
right.
Or two, because of the lensing effect. It's like when you live in a dry climate, you don't want fires starting.
Right.
So
yeah. then he is led out, and it's Otho that's going to lead him out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's meditating about where he's going to go, and he's been looking to the mountains, from the first moment we saw him getting dyed. He's looking out of the academy toward the mountains. And now we get a longer meditation as to why the mountains. And his reasoning is that because they're so dangerous, they're actually safe for a retreatant. So there's something about them that's dangerous. They are mountains. So I think, just culturally, we have that instinctive understanding that in the mountains there are greater dangers and the living is harder. Once upon a time, you said to me, so this was, okay, here we go. Oh no. So I was talking about, some of the chaos of my early life had to do with just sort of unstable family dynamics and moving around a lot. Mm-hmm. And at different times, my parents moved us pretty far into the wilderness, and we lived on the side of a mountain at one point. And I was talking about how, it just wasn't a great place to live in a lot of ways. And in a cold climate where there are long winters and the side of the mountain is just not like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can cut firewood and you can hunt. And we did both of those things. Mm-hmm. But the living is just much harder on a mountainside or in the mountains.
Yeah.
And you said there's a reason that the mountains are the place of the gods, which was is very striking and incisive. And this is the same description here. What Dirk is thinking, that they are not a safe place to be, and therefore they're safer for a retreatant, an initiate, to hide from people, because people will not be as likely to be encountered there. Which, incidentally, is also probably why my parents kept moving us into the mountains, because then you're away from, the prying eyes of the government and, the people at church who want to know what's going on with you and why you're living your life this way. So...
No accountability. What?
Yeah. Avoidance of accountability.
So we end here, and he gets a shiver, even though it's warm.
Yes.
And I think this whole first mini chapter, section, it just brings you along.
Yes.
It's like we're stuck in. It's like, oh, we start out. He's in the middle of the initiation.
Yeah.
Like some things happen. We're introduced to a couple of characters.
Mm-hmm.
He's meditating on something that Theophilus said, which it sounds like he said it in passing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like they're all kind of coming together, and it feels like even though it feels a little slow, it just kind of sweeps you along.
Yeah. And Wolfe is so economical with description and yet so evocative. So I have a strong visual image of this location, although we don't have much description. Mm-hmm. I have a strong sense of, a desert landscape of sort of adobe walled structures of some sort. There's a tower involved here, so we're getting some kind of fortress. But this definitely has a distinctive atmosphere and feeling. And Otho seems a very distinct character at this point. He is, he seems to be someone inhabiting a stereotype of the fat, fussy servant, similar to, I can't think of his name right now, but the servant in the Tombs of Adawan that waits on Tenar and follows her around.
Yeah, I can't.
I want to say Monway, but I know that's a Tolkien name, not a Le Guin name. Yeah, anyway. And, so he seems to have this sort of typical thing, but there seems to be something else under there. He's wearing rope sandals and a robe. And so I have a very distinct set of pictures in my mind that seem very grounded in this world. And in the Young Wolfe layout, this is 3 pages of text. 3 relatively small pages of text. Okay. And there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot been communicated.
Yeah. One thing, too, that I didn't bring this up when we were going through, and I I don't remember exactly where it was, but when he's talking about the bricks, the mud bricks, there's one. It's left ambiguous because it says that there's one wall that isn't covered in the bricks, which kind of it feels a little bit like Severian, where it's like, oh, the bulkhead and the
Right.
but it's not really. It's just kind of a light touch, and then we go on like.
And it doesn't get addressed later, although the additional context we get could illuminate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a light little touch that it just stood out this time because it's like I've read it a few times before and then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and this isn't the second story that Wolfe wrote. It's the second story he sold.
Mm-hmm.
So there is mastery here already, here in 66. He has that literary excellence operating.
Yeah.
All right, so on to chapter 2.
Yeah, this one has...
This one has a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. They came for him when the last sunlight had left the sky. He heard them long before the door opened, the steady, careful tread of Theophilus's bare feet contrasting with the uneven shuffle of Otho's rope-soled sandals. Okay, so the masters walk barefoot. Mm-hmm. I think that's a telling detail. Telling of what exactly, I'm unsure, but it does hint at a sense of discipline and tradition within the academy. Yeah, so then they take him. Theophilus explains the ritual to him, and I think a lesser author would have given us that explanation. Uh-huh. But here, Wolfe tells us, delivered the ritual explanation of the purpose and conditions of the retreat, half speaking, half chanting. And we've already gotten hints like that he's going to go off. It's going to take him a couple of months for the dye to wear off of his skin. He can't be caught in that time. He must survive. Presumably, the purpose of this is furthering his education, testing his capabilities to see if he has what it takes to become a master. Mm-hmm. But this is not described for us. And then when it's over and Dirk had made the proper response, presumably accepting this responsibility, Theophilus goes back to his normal voice and says, Otho will take you to a place from which even in full daylight, the walls of the academy cannot be seen. The retreat proper begins at sunup. And so Dirk and Otho are going to wander off into the desert. Otho is leading him specifically. Mm-hmm. And then from the time that the sun comes up, now he has to elude notice of any other people. He can't see another person.
Yeah.
Or allow another person to see him.
Yeah. My lord, Otho said softly, this is the place. There's another section in here because it's like we're following him out. It's like the sand and stones were still warm under his feet, though he knew the warmth would not last long.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We have the desert where it's like, yeah, it's hot, but there's also not a lot of vegetation and other insulating cover. And then we have the high-pitched howl of one of the little desert wolves, mm-hmm. a sound that he'd heard often while stretched on his cot in the dormitory seemed friendly and familiar. So we have our little wolf in here.
Yes.
So this next section.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah. Unexpectedly, the captive thrust a stoppered bottle into his hands without the slight. Oh, gosh. I should not be.
Without the slightly obsequious note Dirk had always heard in his voice before, he said, I've liked you ever since you came, boy, even though you were more severe with me than any of the others. Take this. As soon as it's light, spread it all over yourself. In half an hour, it will have neutralized the dye, and you can wipe off the whole mess with clean sand. What?
Yeah.
Otho, and so he loses his servile tone of voice, obsequious, which is a terrible word to have to pronounce. I quite agree. I've just had to pronounce it before, so I feel marginally confident. Yes, so here is something to take the dye off of your skin, mm-hmm. which would mean, so if the dye is not on your skin, then you're not marked as a retreatant, then you're not in danger from seeing another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that, because that servile tone is gone, we're getting this clue that either Otho was acting before or he's acting now or something has fundamentally shifted here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Before Dirk could recover from his astonishment, the captive had turned to go. And it's telling here that Wolfe is calling him by his title, the captive, as in this is a person who failed his retreat and not by his name. Calling over his shoulder, my own discovery. I had the dye formula, you know, and plenty of time for research. I'll never tell anyone. With the uncanny skill of a master, like a puma suddenly disappearing behind some fold of ground hardly large enough to shelter a cactus wren, he was gone. Dirk called in astonishment, then anger, and finally in an agony of frustration, there was no reply. All right, what happened?
I think that this section is just so well done because it's we get that Othel he's gone.
Yeah.
And he's stealthy.
Yes, he's highly skilled. That whole rope sandal shuffling thing is gone.
Mm-hmm. And then Dirk, it's like astonishment, anger, and then agony of frustration.
Right. So we're getting some character revealed right in that sentence. Mm-hmm. So why would he be angry? Or, well, okay, we understand why he'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Because here the captive, the servant, is offering him a way out.
Uh-huh.
But then why angry and why frustrated?
My assumption was he was angry because it was like, why, how dare you give this to me? Like, why would you assume that I would try to cheat my way out?
Right.
And then I think agony because now he's been given the temptation and he has to keep because he's thinking, we get a little bit of explanation later on here that if he throws it away and then actually is successful,
then Otho will always think that he used it.
And so it'll always be like this between them. And be like,
anger, how dare you think that I would do this? And also maybe anger, how dare you introduce a temptation into the middle of my difficult trial?
Mm-hmm.
And then frustration that I could do everything right and still be judged wrong. That one doesn't hit close to home at all.
Yeah. So there's
sorry. This is where Wolfe is so one of the many places where Wolfe is just so human and so humane. Like, who among us is not frustrated by the feeling that I even if I do it right, I still might be judged wrong, or even if I do it right, I still might fail, or I could do it right, and then this person, because I did it right, this person will still have a false impression of me as having done it wrong. Like that, I don't know. That's so human.
Yeah. So that part is just so well done, and then we get the because it's like he describes the bottle as heavy and infinitely dishonorable.
Yes. Great.
Like weighed in his hand.
Yes.
So, and he kind of goes through some of this is where I think that some of the agony comes in because he goes through the pros and cons. Like,
right.
It's like, oh, if I didn't have this paint on me, people would assume I was a young master.
Right.
And nothing would come of it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so presumably the dye means that he's fair game for any other person to bring him to the magistrate, is what we hear, that it brought to the magistrate, Otho, and the magistrate detected the dye on his feet. So if his skin is clean, then he could look like a young master belonging to the guild. If he has any dye on him, then he's fair game for some kind of reward or an enactment of justice or something. Yeah. And if he's undyed, then he could be mistaken for someone who has accomplished a thing.
And we get a little bit of glimpse into this society here because there's talks about the farms.
Yes.
So there's like farmsteads and various places that are kind of on the outskirts. And we get the sense that there's a lot of distance between them, which would make sense because if you're in the desert, resources are lower, so you need more.
Right.
Like crop planting isn't going to, your spacing isn't going to
This is not a high density agriculture situation. Yeah. And we do find out later that Dirk comes from a farming family. And so we get that kind of sense of the wider context, but we also get just a deep sense of his own, like himself. He doesn't want to live a lie. And he knows that if he did accept a trick. He would spend the rest of his life in awareness that he lived that lie.
Yeah.
But then he seems maybe more horrified by the idea that Otho will have something over on him.
Uh-huh.
And so that he, even if he succeeds in the trial, he will always be perceived as not having succeeded. And Otho insinuating that he took the cheat would make every moment of his life unpleasant, which makes a lot of sense. For a person of the kind of character that would reject this, that's true. Yeah. For the person of the kind of character that would accept this, they would come to a way to justify it to themselves. So the fact that he feels like he would never be able to justify it to himself is, in fact, the part of him that wouldn't let him do it. So.
Yeah. There's a little section here with Otho. Had apparently not headed directly back toward the academy. The trail slanted off to the northeast in a series of convolutions that threw it behind every speck of cover.
Yeah.
I like that where it's, because once again, we get, okay, Otho is a little more at home out here than the shuffling like gait in the courtyard would.
Yeah, so shuffling around in his rope sandals at home at the academy, but he comes out here and he doesn't take the direct path back. He takes the one where he can hide, and he seems to be able to move through the landscape in a way that understands exactly how to hide, which, whether this is a holdover from his own days as an initiate or he has cultivated these skills in some way, or he's more than he seems.
Yeah. Well, and this one kind of stood out to me because there's been times where I've been out hunting, and a lot of times if you sit down somewhere, I've sat on a rock because then it's like you see the other hunters and watching how, because there's so many people, they just drive around, whether it's in a pickup or a four-wheeler, and you can hear the vehicle miles away.
Yep.
But I guess we're so dead to the noise that we don't even notice it. But then you see other hunters, the way they interact with the landscape is always telling, because you'll watch some people and it's a straight line's the only thing they know.
Right. They're like, I want to get from here to over there, so I'll walk straight from here to there. Yeah.
And there's one time where I was just sitting on a rock, minding my own business. I wasn't even hidden. So when I say I'm sitting on a rock, like I'm not like behind a bush or anything. Like literally the rock, like I'm out on a stony field, and I was just sitting on a rock, but I was still, because movement's usually what gives you away. Some guy walked within probably 20, 30 feet of me, but he was on that straight line march.
Yeah.
And
probably heavy feet, kind of stomping through the dry, whatever, making loud crunches.
Yeah, and he got pretty close, and I realized that he hadn't seen me, and I assumed that he'd seen me, and so I cleared my throat so he would know that I was there.
To alert.
And he freaked out. Like he pulls, because he had his gun slinged over his shoulder. He grabs his gun. He's like, "What? Go again." I'm like, "Dude, I've been watching you for like since you came over that hill." Yeah. And he just was completely unaware that there's another person out there. And I wasn't even trying to hide. But then there's been other times where I watch and people it's like they actually do respect the landscape, and they're thinking of the landscape the same way that an animal would be, where it's like, and so they'll follow, they'll go through the draws, or that they don't just pop up on top of a hill, and it's like, look at me, this awkward silhouette on the skyline
that's moving a lot.
Yeah And just watching people, you can kind of see how attuned they are to creation.
So this makes me think of Dune and the big deal that's made in the narrative of not walking with a rhythm, because it's the rhythm that calls the worms.
Yeah.
And that, trying to step differently, to be inconsistent, to not sound like a person stomping across the desert.
Yeah.
And the way it's presented in the story, and I think maybe the way it's mostly received is, oh, what a unique feature of Arrakis that this distinct problem exists. And so people have to learn this very specific, very strange way of moving. But what it reads like to someone who's been hunting or has, spent a good deal of time, I like how you said, attuned to the land.
Yeah.
That kind of like slowness that is actually faster because it conserves energy and because it's sensitive to the land, that takes a few steps and notices and steps on the stone instead of on the dry branch, that sets the foot down softly, that walks more with the ball of the foot than the heel. There's a burst of effort here and then a pause. That kind of movement of attunement to the land. I mean, this is true of deer and elk hunting. It's also just true of any kind of hiking where you want to actually see the birds and hear them. That kind of quiet and attunement. Like, I've gone hiking with people who spoke loudly from one end of the trail to the other end of the trail and seemed to think that the hike was an excuse to talk.
Yeah.
Like that was the main point. Like you can go on a hike where what you want to do is visit with your friend. That's fine. But if you want to be around the natural world, if you want to see and hear and listen, and I mean, even just walking here in the city along the river, if you're quiet at least some of the time, and you don't have earbuds in, and you're not just pounding out your steps you can see, I've gotten within 8 feet of a Cooper's hawk just sitting on a branch just above eye level because I noticed, I could see him, and how many of those things that we humans miss.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant about, paying attention to the natural world.
Well, yeah, but it's a thing, and you can watch how people interact with their environment.
Yeah. And what's presented as a set of esoteric skills in this context is a set of esoteric skills, but not ones that you study in a classroom. It's a set of esoteric skills that you gain from a kind of experience, which Otho has moved through the desert like a hunted prey. Otho knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And Dirk knows what he's doing because Dirk is able to follow the trail.
Yes.
Which is super interesting. And the description that Wolfe gives here of following the spoor, this is actually very realistic description from my perspective. I'm not an expert on desert tracking, but what you're looking for is not footprints or a trail. What you're looking for are slight disturbances in the normal lay of things. The sand is slightly disturbed. And over here, that is slightly different than the wind would have had it.
Yeah. People think it's like tracking something's easy. Like, it's...
Yeah, footprints in soft mud.
Yeah. That happens so rarely. And the other thing, too, is animals are aware of that. Like, they are aware that they leave footprints.
Yes.
And so they don't like to leave tracks where it's easily seen. So.
Right. And that's why animals move the ways that they do.
Yeah.
They're aware that they leave tracks. They're also aware that they leave scents because there's an entire range of this that is pretty much closed to the human. Some people, at least one of whom is in this podcast studio at the moment, have an extraordinarily sensitive sense of smell and can detect things that most other humans can't. But I'm sorry, but compared to a dog, you're not smelling 1/1000th of the information that they're getting.
There's a section here that's very, it's too long to read.
Okay.
Or I think it is, because
we're talking about the encounter with the Gerda.
Yeah, because it's very disjointed, but at the same time, it's from Dirk's perspective.
Right.
There's a disturbance. He sees a flash of light.
Well, he was intently trying to follow the trail so that he didn't notice some movement. Then he does notice some movement, and it seems like there are some creatures moving around. Yes, and then there's a flash of light, and his shoulder bag is ripped from his shoulder.
Which is, he's been shot at.
Yes. And the shot hit the shoulder bag and pulled it off of him. Yeah.
So he's lucky.
Yes.
Because initiation could have been over.
Right. And we didn't have a sense up till this point that getting shot at was one of the things that he might be dealing with, but it's one of the things he's dealing with.
Yeah. But now we get introduced. You said Gerda?
Yeah, I pronounced it Gerda, Gyrda.
Yeah. Well, in a few paragraphs here, it's Homo Gerda, so it's like
Yes.
got a binomial scientific name, but that we're introduced to a new faction.
And these seem to be half height, people like people, but not quite.
Yeah.
Bald heads. They're small. They move with extraordinary quickness. They're described as being like hummingbirds, like a blur of movement.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow they have this ability to move very, very quickly.
And there's a section here where it was the average stature of those his parents had called the poor people or the pretty people when they told stories in the farmhouse kitchen. We get these euphemistic ways of referring to them, much like with the fairies, where they
the fair folk.
Fair folk, the good folk.
The good, yep.
So there's like calling them pretty people. They may not be actually that pretty.
Right. And poor, they may not be poor.
Yeah.
So they're somehow related to humans, but they're of small size and they do seem to be extraordinarily dangerous. So after he gets shot at, he drops to the ground and just stays completely still, which is a good strategy for not being caught.
Yep. I guess we should mention here in world, we get the girder. It's like a Latin Anglo-Saxon mongrel.
For an obsolete unit of measurement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like I looked this up and there's like, it could be used for a fence.
Right.
So like a half height fence.
Right. So it seems like it was used for enclosure or space that was enclosed, but maybe also for the thing that enclosed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that maybe this was a sort of a folk etymology because it is a root word for what we might call a yard, as in like an enclosed yard, not a yard as a unit of measure.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure about the etymology here.
Yeah.
Whether Wolfe is deliberately playing with that or if he found because it does. There's like an old Icelandic word and an old Anglo-Saxon word that could be related, but they have more to do with enclosure than measurement. So
yeah. No, that's kind of where I landed. It was also because he likes to do that type of stuff.
Yes,
and he's the type of person I learned this from Wolfe, and it's like,
well, be cautious about that.
Yeah,
he's probably messing with you. Yeah, so he lays perfectly still until daylight. And he gets up and they're not there. And he feels certain that they wouldn't be this close because they're going to try to stay away from the academy. So there seems to be some kind of standoff between them and the academy. But he sees that there is a struggle, or there are signs of a struggle. And so the four Gerda, had been laying in the sand, but then they had gone off carrying a fifth figure.
Yeah.
And so his belief at this point is that they have kidnapped Otho.
Yes.
And are carrying him off across the desert. Mm-hmm. Why would they kidnap Otho? I don't know.
We don't know. They're introduced. They have a binomial name that is not Homo sapien.
Yes.
And they seem to be hostile because they've shot at him, and it appears to be by dumb luck that he
survives this.
Yeah, that he was able to survive.
Yeah. And maybe just being still afterwards. Yeah, so he decides he's going to go after. So his responsibility is to not get caught while he's on his retreat, but he believes that they've kidnapped Otho, and so presumably he's not supposed to see Otho either, but he's going to go after them and rescue the servant, the captive. Mm-hmm. So he starts tracking them across the desert. And this is, like he can follow their track fairly easily, but he has to stop because he needs food.
Yeah.
And there's a great little passage there about, I think it's in this chapter, about not being one of the people that doesn't know how long you can go without food. Most people think that that's less time than you think. But he knows because his parents fasted one day a week during the winter, and had, gone without meals. He didn't think he needed to eat 3 times a day, but he does need to eat. So here we get the scene where he mimics the cry of a distressed young marmot.
Yeah. Well, because he goes to the mesquite tree to get the pods.
Yes.
But then he realizes...
well, there are no mesquite beans under this mesquite tree.
Yeah. So then it's like, well, something has to be collecting them.
Yep.
And he looks around and he sees the marmot den. But he's also like, well, I can't dig it out.
Right. Yeah, it's probably deep and sturdy enough that I'm not going to be able to get to them. They're going to be able to hide.
Yeah. And I don't know how familiar listeners are with marmots, but they can dig really deep.
Yes.
I've watched a bear give up because a bear doesn't always be like, oh, I don't think I can move that rock. A bear's like, yeah, I'll move that rock. And of course, bears are just stronger than they look.
Oh, they're enormously strong.
Yeah. So it's like I've watched bears on the hillside, like trying to dig out a marmot.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where it's like a bear will give up because they're way down there deep. And then they'll make these calls where it's like this really shrill, high-pitched like alarm call. And I don't know if it's mocking the bear or whatever.
Probably,
but it's just, eventually the bear will give up and start.
Yeah. Well, they don't need much space to hide. They just need a little space just beyond the reach of claws. And so if there's enough, and he describes this as a rocky den. And so if there are enough rocks to move, like if you've ever tried to dig out a rock, it's a lot of work. So he decides he's going to lure the marmot out. And again, this is very economically described. He sits down very still. He closes his hand over a rock on the side of his body farthest away from the marmot den. And then he mimics the cry of a young marmot in distress. And he keeps doing it for a while. And a marmot comes out and ventures further away from the den. And then part of his strategy is he's noticed that there's a hawk up in the sky. And so he's not himself trying to get the marmot alone. He is deploying the hawk against the marmot. So when the marmot has gotten a little away from the opening of the den, he throws his rock not at the marmot, but at the door of the den to make the marmot hesitate to run back to it, which gives the hawk time to fly down and get its talons on it, which stops it from getting back underground. And then he throws gravel at the hawk to chase the hawk away, and now he has fresh marmot.
Yeah.
Which is, this is a multi-state, this is a chess problem, not a checkers problem.
Yep.
And he's played it well enough that he gets fresh meat and makes a little fire, which is not described, but I'm assuming with the magnifying glass, and has roast marmot.
Yeah, it's an economical fire.
Yes.
When I read that, there's this, I think it's in Dances with Wolves, where they're like, well, this is a white man's fire.
Yes.
It's like, what? It's like, white man's fire is big. It's like, so I'm imagining he's got a tiny little...
This is a purple man's fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, tiny little fire, just enough to cook the marmot.
One of the other things there, like all birds, it had great difficulty in rising unless it could climb to a tree limb or a high point of rock for its takeoff. And I feel like here's another clue of where we are. Because when you're reading it, it's like, well, wait, are these birds? Are they not birds? Like,
right.
What do you mean it has great difficulty, but atmosphere is less dense here?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Then after he has his fresh marmot, he realizes he needs to get some water too. And this really throws him off the trail or slows him down, because he has to figure out where the poor people were getting their water. And this requires him to know likely places to get water, and then to identify the specific spot where they had scooped out and then allowed water to seep up, and then fill his canteen from seeping water. Yeah. So he's not finding a spring or an oasis or something. He's finding a place where the water will seep to the surface if he strategizes correctly.
It's probably different in Arizona, but around in our mountain areas in Idaho, like I've found, I don't know, but I've heard it from Native Americans and from anthropologists, so I assume this information is correct. But there's places I've found several times where there'll be like a flat rock, and it's larger, probably a foot to 2 feet across. And when I say flat, so it's like a thin couple inches thick, like pancake shaped. But when you step on it, it's got a hollow sound. And then when you flip it over, there's like a little section where it's been dug out and water will pool down in there just from it's hitting the bedrock. And so it's having to rise, or it's coming down off a mountain, kind of like congregating the water. So it's percolating up through there. And so it's just a
handful of water.
Yeah. So, but it's reliable and it refills back up.
Right.
And like the ways that you're dealing with getting water in a desert area is much different.
Right.
Because it's like, there's like the Snake River runs through Hell's Canyon, but you're not, it's an all day trip down to the bottom.
Yes.
So you're not going, all your time would be
spent. It's not an all day trip down to the bottom, but it's definitely an all day trip back up.
Well, yeah. So, but it's just, it's interesting things where it's like in a lot of places you can visually see water, but it's a long ways off. But then somebody figured out like,
well, a seep spring is a real thing. Yeah. And it's described, Wolfe describes it very well. Like it's knowing the geology, it's understanding the plant communities, it's being able to attend to all those details. Yeah. This is a classic of any kind of, if you have a quest narrative that involves any kind of realism about supplying food and water, which Lord of the Rings actually does this fairly well between Bree and Rivendell, that looking for food, hunting for food, and obtaining water, even in relatively fertile lands, if it's wildland, that takes time.
It does.
And so it definitely slows you down. So this has slowed him down on the poor people in Otho's trail.
Yeah.
All right. So we're only, I don't even know if we're quite halfway through the story. So we should continue this in another episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So chapters 1 and 2, we will.
Yeah.
I think we're about halfway.
Yeah. We'll pick up with chapter 3 on next episode. All right. Until next time, the unreliable narrators are Amanda Patchen and Brent Towle. And as Young Wolfe said, she is in the past we never knew and the future we will not see. Put out more sail, Captain, for the universe is leaving us behind.